Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today we've got a little Sunday afternoon special for you. Today we're going to take a look at the catalog of Foghat, a band that I know a lot of you have asked for over the last few weeks, months, whatever. A band that I like. I have a decent chunk of their catalog. I've heard of pretty much everything they've ever done. I decided rather than because they've got a lot of albums, I decided to just focus on my top 10 favorites. Okay, because they've got varying quality in this latter half of their catalog. I don't own a lot of the stuff from say post 1981 or so. But so I figured let's just concentrate on my 10 favorites. So for those of you who are maybe not that much into Foghat or looking to get into Foghat, hopefully this will kind of steer you in the directions to go. So I'm going to start off with my number 10. And my number 10 is going to be from 1980. So it's an album called Tight Shoes. It's that one right there with the sneakers on front. Okay. So this is the last album with lead and slide guitarist Rod Price until the early 90s when the band would reform again. So this is more of Tala. Relax. This is more of a straight up rock album as opposed to their normal kind of like boogie and blues rock type of thing. Very, very just early 80s rock album. That's what it is. It's got Stranger in My Hometown, pretty good song. Too Late to Hero. This song and a couple songs on here kind of sound like, catchy, kind of like 38 Special of the same era. More than like Foghat that we were used to in all the albums previous to it. So very little to no boogie or blues on this album. But you know what? The songs are decent enough. It's not a bad kind of like early 80s rock album. If you don't mind missing all those kind of like, Foghat characteristics, the Blitzkrieg slide guitar and the raunchy kind of like boogie rhythms and all that kind of stuff. But overall, not a terrible album. Top shelf Foghat, probably not. I would say investigate that one a little bit later on. Same thing with my number 9, which is Boogie Motel, which is that guy right there. So this is the Edsel Records reissue. In fact, a lot of the ones that I have are that. So Boogie Motel released in 1979. Here's the kind of the last gasp at the kind of the boogie formula. But in saying that, it's kind of like by the numbers boogie rock. Title track is catchy. It's got some cool saxophone on the title track. There's like a little bit of sax and horns on this album. It's a little bit different. Somebody's Been Sleeping in My Bed rocks. Got good hooks on it. Nervous Release is probably the heaviest song on the album. It's got some really cool riffs. That's definitely like heavy Foghat, but there's little heavy on here. There's little like really rocking on here. Again, not a terrible album, but just kind of like Foghat sort of playing it safe, all right, to kind of close out the decade. Not a bad album, but considering it's titled Boogie Motel, not classic Foghat boogie by any means, but some decent material on here. Next up, and I don't have this one, but it's a really good one. Number 8 is Return of the Boogeymen from 1994. This is the album where the band got back together with the classic lineup. It's a really good comeback album. It's, like I said, classic lineup. Got lots of meaty guitar work and lots of slide. Jump That Train, Nothing But Trouble, Play Dirty, Writing on the Wall. Just overall a good, hard rocking album from Foghat with all the normal Foghat trimmings. It gets big and beefy, a lot of guitar playing, energetic rhythms. It's just a good rockin' album, and I think for a band trying to come back in the early 90s, a weird kind of decade for bands from the 70s, but I think that these guys came back and really put out a good one with this particular one there. Number 7, we're going to go to their 1972 debut, simply titled Foghat, and that's that guy right there. All right, solid album, boogie and blues rock. I mean, the band basically came out from, Savoy Brown, kind of continued along those same lines. I Just Want to Make Love to You is on this album. Of course, that's a great cover, one of the most memorable songs. You got Maybelline on here. Both songs, 2 really great covers that the band kind of made their own. A Hole to Hide In, Trouble, Trouble. Both songs have some great guitars. Trouble, Trouble's got a little bit of guest piano on it. All in all, a good, solid debut. They would get better as a band, but I think it's still pretty notable an album. Next up, we're going to go to 1978 for number 6, Stone Blue. It's that bad boy right there. Pretty big selling album for the band, produced by Eddie Kramer. It's a great sounding album. Title track, Stone Blue, very, very popular. You got the fast-paced rocker Easy Money, which is great. You got a blistering take on It Hurts Me Too, another traditional blues tune. High on Love, good, catchy rock and roll. Chevrolet is also a lot of fun. All in all, it's just a really solid record. It's a fun boogie rock album, late 70s boogie rock album. And I think, probably by this point in time, the formula is starting to perhaps wear a little thin, the band wanting to move on to other things, and they would start going in different directions shortly after this. So that's my number 6. Number 5 is Rock and Roll Outlaws from 1974. That's that one right there. Okay. Hate to See You Go, rocks real hard. It's got great vocals from Dave Peverett. Dreamer is one of my favorite tunes on the album. That's a real groovy blues rocker. It's a really cool song. The title track is very memorable. It's got crunchy riffs, nice anthem. Blue Spruce Woman is a kick-ass boogie with a really, really catchy Dave Peverett vocal. So a fun album. Rock and Roll Outlaws from 1974, coming in number 5. Number 4, we're going to go to Night Shift from 1976. Almost thought about ranking this a little bit higher. It's actually a very good song. It's got Driving Wheel on it. My driving wheel. Really good rockin' tune that became a live staple for them. Got the heavy title track, which is also really good. You got the funky hard rock of Hot Shot Love and the slower blues of I'll Be Standing By. I almost wish this band did a little more slower blues like that. Really good guitar playing from Peverett and Price. Just overall a very good album, good sounding album, one of their highlights from later in the decade, for sure. And that was number 4. Coming in number 3, we're going to go to their second album, which is also kind of self-titled, but it's been known as the Rock and Roll album. That's this one right there. Get it? Rock and Roll. Rock and a hard roll, okay, rock and roll, but it's basically self-titled, but it goes by both names, and that's from 1973. Ride, Ride, Ride is a great tune on here. You got the sizzling blues rock of Long Way to Go, another highlight from this album. What a Shame. You got Helping Hand, which is a good hard rock tune with some killer slide guitar from Rod Price. What a slide player that guy was. You got the anthemic Road Fever, another popular live track, and the atmospheric She's Gone. Which is another good track later on in the album. So very solid record. Easily one of their best. Coming in at number 2. Let me find it. Okay, number 2 is going to be Energized from 1974. That's the guy right there. I almost ranked this one number 1. I think Energize might be their strongest album start to finish, top to bottom. You got Honey Hush on there. Okay, great song. Another song they love to play live. Home in My Hand, another popular live track. Great song. Wild Cherry rocks hard. Nothing I Won't Do, another strong track. You got Golden Arrow. A lot of really, really, really enjoyable blues, rock, and boogie songs on this album. Like I said, I think the album sounds great. The band is kicking ass. Great mix of blues, rock, and boogie throughout the entire album. And I think with 8 tracks, it's compact enough. Every song is strong. So really dig it a lot. That's my number 2. Coming in number 1, probably not a surprise for anybody. And again, it's pretty tight. My 1 and 2 are pretty tight here. I'm going to go with Fool for the City from 1975. That's that guy right there. Of course, you got their always in place drummer, Mr. Roger Earl, sitting there. Looks like he's going fishing down a manhole cover, right, in the middle of the city. That's why it's called Fool for the City, right? Great production by Nick Jameson on this album. Title track, obviously, one of their more well-known tunes, Slow Ride, probably their most popular song. Killer slide guitar in there, it's heavy. You got Terraplane Blues, Drive Me Home, all have like scorching slide guitar from Rod Price. The real treat for me, though, however, on this album is the last song, really deep on the album. It's song number 7. It's called Take It or Leave It. It's kind of funky, bluesy pop. It's got some cool, tasty electric piano and some liquid guitar solos in it. I think it's a terrific song and kind of not indicative of everything else that Foghat did, but I think it's one of those songs that they should have released as a single because I think it would have appealed to kind of the pop and the R&B audience. And not that it's a disco song, because it isn't, but it's got those kind of rhythms that I think a lot of the disco acts kind of incorporated later on. So I think a really cool song. It's not a rockin' song, but I think it's just a lot of fun. It's got a great hook, and I think it should have been released as a single to see how it would have done. So there you have it. So there are my top 10 favorites from the albums of Foghat. And they've got some other ones that are notable for the Charlie Hune albums. I have a couple of them. Those are pretty decent as well. Do they sound like Foghat? Yeah, sort of, but I think they're good as well. And then they put out some other albums here and there. Some of the other 80s albums are just, once Rod Price left, I was like, that doesn't sound like Foghat anymore. So those the albums that came after, after these two, I think are pretty poor, actually. But, whatever. I'm sure there's people out there who dig them. So let's recap the list. So Fool for the City coming in at number 1. Number 2, we got Energized. Number 3, Rock and Roll, or also Foghat self-titled. Number 4, Night Shift. Where is Night Shift? Right there. Number 5, Rock and Roll Outlaws. Right there. Number 6, Stone Blue. Number 7, Foghat, the debut from 1972. Number 8, Return of the Boogeymen from 1994. Number 9, Boogie Motel from 79. Number 10, Tight Shoes from 1980. And I do want to, because I'm sure someone's going to say, but you didn't mention their best album ever, which is, of course, is probably their live album, right? Foghat Live, a kick-ass live album from the 70s that everybody loves. I don't know anybody who does not love that album. And it's a great live album. It's one that should have been a double. It's one of those many live albums from that era, from the 70s, that were so good, but they released them as single LPs, and you're left wanting more, because it's only got 6 tracks on A Fool for the City, Home in My Hand, I Just Want to Make Love to You, Road Fever, Honey Hush, and Slow Ride. All 6 kick ass, and then you're like, all right, where's the rest, right? Where's the rest? So there you have it. There's your Foghat ranking the studio albums, or at least my 10 favorites of their catalog. So visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. So coming up, we got more stuff coming up today. The Monsters Den. We're going to be talking about the 70s influential slasher pick, Black Christmas. In addition, Jack Toledano's coming up on the show in an hour or so, and we're going to kind of chat a little bit about some very cool Jethro Tull box sets and special releases and things like that. So that's all coming up today, right? And more stuff happening tomorrow. So we'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.